up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about intuitive eating and if it is possible to lose weight while you intuitively eat. Now, with the new year, I think this is a little bit different of a topic that you don't typically see people talking about, because usually come January 1st, a lot of people are trying out new diets and trying to eliminate things and doing dry January and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really loving the way that a lot of people are wanting to embrace a more intuitively eating based approach, especially for those people who have been tracking macros for so long, hoping to get out of it, or just maybe even you're looking to get into eventually tracking your food. And so you're starting to listen to your body, take note of what you're eating, and eat a little bit more intuitively. With that being said, most people's main goal with eating intuitively is to better their relationship with food and with their body. It's not like the only goal that there is, but that's pretty much, from my point of view as a nutritionist, what I see the most when people want to start intuitively eating. But I do get this question asked quite frequently. And if you didn't know, I am a nutritionist and NTP with Black Iron Nutrition, and I coach primarily lifestyle clients, which are people who are wanting to track their macros, some performance-based, some just regular lifestyle. But I do also coach a program called Thrive, which is an intuitively eating-based approach. And so people will often come to me and ask if it is possible to lose weight and to have weight loss be the primary goal while you are eating intuitively. So I want to kind of talk about this in today's video, so let's jump on into it. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos on like fad diets, dieting in general, reverse dieting, I have a lot of educational nutrition style videos. They're all actually in a playlist, so I will put that playlist up above for you to check out. But I have talked about the main principles of intuitive eating, and there are a pretty decent amount of structured principles that most people will follow when they're getting into it. But one of the main ones and one of the most important ones is to honor your body's natural hunger cues. This is a little bit tricky, and from my experience as a coach, I think a lot of people reach out to nutrition coaches and just wanting to change their lifestyle in general because they feel like they don't understand how to listen to their body's natural hunger cues, right? Because if they have, a lot of weight to lose, let's say, it's probably a fair assumption to say that they've struggled with portion control in the past. They've struggled with listening to their body's hunger cues, discipline, motivation, and things like that. So even though one of the most important principles of intuitively eating is to honor your body's natural hunger cues, I do find that for clients who are looking to lose weight, this can definitely pose a pretty big challenge. It's also really unfair to say a strict yes or no answer, as you probably already know. And if you know me, you know I love to say that it kind of depends, because when it comes to nutrition, it really does depend. You are not going to be the same as somebody, whether you copy their exact macros, their exact diet. You have to also take into consideration your own body's natural set point. And if you don't know what a set point is, I will link some really awesome articles down below that you can read about for your body's natural set point, but also like environmental factors, genetics. Genetics play a huge role in not only where your body stores fat, but where you lose fat from first, where you gain fat to first. And there's a lot of different factors, including previous diet history, where even if you were to copy somebody's intuitive eating plan for weight loss, you might not lose weight. And so to answer the question of the title of this video, yes, no, and sometimes. Yes, meaning some people can intuitively eat and lose weight. However, not all people who intuitively eat can lose weight. So do I think that it should be your number one goal if you're looking to eat intuitively? Probably not. I think a really big key factor to that is whether or not the person who is wanting to start intuitively eating is already at their set point. And so you might think, well, like Manders, can I just diet really hard and then intuitively eat? And my honest opinion is no, that is a horrible idea. I say this to people who ask me about, shouldn't I lose a bunch of weight before I do CrossFit? Shouldn't I do this before I do that? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. The reason for this is a lot of times when you're going into a severe caloric deficit, or even maybe it's a moderate or very conservative, you're still practicing these behaviors that are against listening to your body's natural hunger cues. Why? Because being in a deficit, you're most likely going to be hungry. You're most likely going to be restricting food. So if you're someone who is coming from a strict diet and then you kind of just like let go off the rails and you don't have any structure and you just call it intuitive eating because you're just like, oh, I'm listening to eating when I'm hungry, it's very likely, and I have seen this with my own clients, it is likely that you will then revert back to your previous eating habits, your current lifestyle before you're on the diet. This is just a really common practice that happens for people who are not at their set weight. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, I definitely don't think that intuitive eating is the best choice, but there are a couple of exceptions to this, and I want to talk about them. So the first one being people who are coming from a background of very, very heavily restricted, unhealthy relationship with food, their bodies, and where tracking food in any capacity is triggering. And I think this is really important to know, both from a client perspective and from a coach perspective, when you need to tell your client this may not be the best option for you. So what that might look like is someone who has previously struggled with binge eating disorder or any type of eating disorder, and they're not looking to track their macros, their calories, weigh anything. However, they still want to lose weight. They still have an end weight loss goal. In this example, that person, that client, is going to be eating intuitively with a goal for weight loss. And from a coach standpoint, for me, that looks like relying heavily on teaching the importance of very nutrient dense foods, meal timing, portion sizing, including proteins with your main meals. So there are definitely some things that are very compatible with the intuitive eating principles that you can apply with the long-term goal of being weight loss. Again, do I think it's the best? Not necessarily, but like I said, there are some cases where that's just what you have to do, and that's okay. You kind of just have to lean into that and figure out how you can make it work best for you. Another thing to consider is also somebody who, on the opposite end of that spectrum, who simply does not want to track things for no other reason other than they just don't want to, and they also want to eat intuitively. So if you're somebody watching this and you're like, well, I just want to eat intuitively and practice those principles and better my relationship with food and my body, but you have these really strong aesthetic weight loss numeric data-based goals, are you really practicing the principles of intuitive eating? You know what I mean? Like, intuitive eating at its core is supposed to help you break away from the diet culture, from the heavily restricted intakes and you know, obsession with numbers and calories and weight and all of that stuff. I think that's kind of where intuitive eating blossomed, because it was like a breath of fresh air for people who are wanting to get away from that. I would really ask you to challenge yourself and see if that's really your main goal. If it is, and you don't really have a reason why you don't want to track and have some sort of structure, I would probably suggest reconsidering that. And honestly, that's just because you're making things harder on yourself. It's like going to, you know, the grocery store with no grocery list. You're gonna just kind of be like floundering around and grabbing random things off the shelf, not really sure how to make meals. Whereas if you go into the grocery store with a plan, with, you know, your grocery list, with what meals you're gonna make, that's just gonna make your entire shopping trip much more enjoyable, and you'll probably be done faster. And that's kind of how it is with weight loss and intuitive eating versus tracking. Do you have to track? Not necessarily. Are there other things that you can do that can definitely help aid in some weight loss that honestly aren't even food related? I mean, walking, getting 10,000 steps a day, doing things that are just boosting your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so underrated. Like, I have people who don't even track anything, like they don't care about intuitive eating, but they also don't want to track macros, just like people in my life. And when we set a step goal for them and like an activity goal, they drop weight pretty quickly because they're just increasing their energy expenditure. So there's always a way around, and there's always a yes and no. There's always a maybe. It is not black and white. And I think it's really important for those of you who are wanting to really focus on weight loss, but also really focus on intuitive eating, to ask yourself which is more important to you at this current moment. And for me, I think getting that healthy relationship with food and with your body, so that you can not only understand your body's natural set point, but also understand what your maintenance level looks like, and all of those things can be really beneficial when you are tracking in some capacity. Again, doesn't have to be excessive, doesn't have to be like, you know, controlling your entire life, but there definitely are some really good things that come out of that, to where then you can transition into intuitively eating. Now, I don't necessarily think that that means you should diet. Like I said, I don't think that it's healthy for people to heavily restrict and then go off and intuitively eat. But I do think that at some period you should spend some time to understand those types of things so that you can be more successful with intuitive eating. If you are intuitive eating and your goal is just to maintain, there are some things that you can just keep track of very easily if you're comfortable with doing so. And weighing yourself on a pretty frequent basis and taking the weekly average is a great way to do that. You're basically just looking at your body's natural trends with what you're currently eating. There are also some intuitive eating based apps if you don't want to track your macros and use things like MyFitnessPal or My Macros Plus. You can use things like Foodie or See How I Ate or Ate Food Journal. There's a lot of different ones that you can just look at your food, look at your portion sizing, and then look at your weekly averages, look at progress pictures, and kind of see, okay, I'm eating in this manner. How is that affecting my body? Am I gaining weight? Am I losing weight? Am I maintaining? And again, this does also go back to understanding your own body's natural set point, because if you are someone who is way over your natural set point and you start intuitively eating, it's possible that you could drop weight initially, but it just depends on what you're focusing on. So I think there's a lot of different factors that play into this equation here. It's really not that simple, but at the end of the day, yes, it is possible for some people to focus on weight loss with intuitive eating. Do I think that it should be the main goal? No, but I think it's doable. It's just more challenging and kind of defeats the purpose of intuitive eating. I hope this answers your question. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, click that subscribe, and if you have any other questions on this, make sure to drop me a comment below, or if you just need help with your nutrition coaching, I am still taking clients this year. I am taking on, I believe, 5 at the time that this video is going up, but those spots may be filled by the time you are watching this video. So if not, you can always get on my wait list at Black Iron Nutrition. But that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you in my next video.